Good morning, and thank you for joining us again for another Saturday morning snippets. I want to thank you for giving your time. Please share this with others, and always remember to leave us a private message with a prayer request or a topic that you would like for us to share. Today we're reading from John chapter 13, verses 3 through 5. And for those of you who aren't familiar, this is taking place literally just minutes before Jesus will be going to prayer in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he will be arrested and begin the trial that will end in his crucifixion. He has enjoyed the Last Supper, as we call it, with his disciples. And at the end of that, that's where we're picking up. And it says here in verse 3, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands. And before we go any further, I want us to really think about that. All authority already belonged to Jesus. He could have walked away from what he was about to face at any time. He did not need to go through the process for himself, or to have power, or to have authority, or to have glory. It was already his. Nevertheless, he did. So we continue on, knowing this, and that he had come from God and was going back to God. Notice I have that underlined. Rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel that was wrapped around him. What a marvelous thing. We hear so many lessons about the servanthood of Jesus at this moment, where he washes the disciples' feet and he gives them the lesson saying that they should do this. Now, some take it literally and they wash the feet of others that don't need to have their feet washed. And Jesus even says during this time, it's about a principle. He says, you're not dirty. He wasn't doing it for that. He was doing it to teach them a lesson that we need to be a servant to others. And look at the extreme servanthood of Jesus. He's about to go to the cross. He's about to bear the sins of all creation. He's about to pay the ultimate sacrifice. And he doesn't have to do any of that. He could have said no at any time, but he didn't. And even while he's preparing in his mind and his spirit for that, he's teaching the disciples to be servants. How can you do that? How can you serve beyond the norm? How can you do it when it's not just a convenient volunteering thing that everybody's doing and it just happens to fit your schedule and it just happens to be convenient? How do you serve beyond that? Well, you need to be like Jesus in the sense that you know your origin. It says he knew that he had come from God. So he knew where he was from. And we need to know that we're children of the King. I mean, we belong to heaven. That's our citizenship when we accept Jesus Christ. I know who my Creator is. I know who my Redeemer is. And so I can serve. But beyond that, he knew his destination. It says, and he was going back to God. So I know where I come from. I know I am God's creation. And beyond that, I am God's child through Jesus Christ. And I know I'm returning to him. So everything in between is just temporary. It may not be easy, may not be what I like, might not be what I want, but it's just temporary because I've come from God and I'm going back to God. If we can keep that in our mind and our hearts every day, our life will be different. Our servanthood will be different. And we'll have a strength that we don't understand because it comes from him and from his example. Thank you for sharing with us today. If you have a prayer request, let us know. God bless you. Bye-bye.